You know that feeling when you're talking and you can just tell the other person has already checked out? Their eyes go somewhere else. Maybe they nod, but you can see it, they're gone. And the worst part is you had something genuinely important to say. Something that mattered. But somewhere between your brain and your mouth it just fell apart. That's not a small problem. That's your life. Because here's what nobody tells you about communication. It's not just about words. It's about what happens to people when they hear you. And right now, if people aren't listening, if they're not leaning in, if your ideas keep getting overlooked in meetings, if your relationships feel weirdly surface level, no matter how hard you try, if you say something and people just nod and move on like you said nothing at all, that is costing you more than you know. Let's be completely honest for a second. Every misconnection, every idea that got ignored, every time someone else said basically what you said and suddenly everyone paid attention, that's not luck. That's clarity. That's impact. And you can learn it. Before we go deeper into exactly how to do this, there is a program linked below in the video description. People who find this kind of content are usually exactly the type of person who actually does something with it. And honestly, those people are rare. Most people will watch this, feel inspired for about 12 minutes, and go back to the same patterns. If you're not that person, if you're genuinely ready to change how people experience you when you speak, you should look at what's down there. It won't be relevant to everyone. But for the right person, it's everything. Now let's get into the real work. Think about the last time you heard someone speak, and you just couldn't look away. Maybe it was someone in a meeting. Maybe it was someone at a dinner table. Maybe it was a stranger who just had this presence. And they weren't necessarily the loudest person in the room. They weren't talking the most. But when they spoke, everything shifted. The air changed. People leaned forward. And you probably thought, I want to be able to do that. That's not magic. That's structure. It's actually a very specific set of skills that can be learned, practiced, and owned. The first one is this. Clarity before content. Most people make the same mistake every single time they speak. They have a thought, and they start talking before that thought has actually taken shape. So it comes out as half-formed. It's cluttered. There are filler words, there are unnecessary detours, and by the time you get to your actual point, you've already lost them. High-impact speakers do something different. They think in reverse. Before they say anything, they already know their destination. They know the one thing they want the other person to walk away with. Just one thing. And everything they say builds toward that one thing. That's why they sound clear. That's why they sound confident. It's not that they're smarter. It's that they've done a specific kind of mental work before they ever open their mouth. Try this. Before your next important conversation, ask yourself, if this person remembers only one thing I say today, what do I want it to be? Then build your entire conversation around landing that one thing. Not 3 things, not 5 things, one thing. Watch what changes. Now here's where it gets even more powerful. The second skill is contrast and specificity, and this is where most people lose massive amounts of influence without even realizing it. Vague language creates zero emotional impact. When you say things like, we need to improve our results, or I want us to do better, or I think we could try something new, people feel nothing. There's no texture. There's nothing to hold on to. It just slides off. But when you say, last quarter we left $200,000 on the table because of one repeated mistake, and I can show you exactly where it happened, suddenly people are sitting up straight. When you say, imagine 6 months from now walking into that room and knowing before you even open your mouth that you have their full attention, now that creates a feeling. That's something people can see, can feel, can want. The most impactful communicators speak in pictures. They don't say improve, they say multiply. They don't say problem, they say expensive invisible leak. They don't say feel better, they say feel like the version of yourself that people actually listen to, actually follow, actually trust. Paint the picture, make it vivid, make it specific, make it feel real before it exists. Here's the third skill, and this one will feel counterintuitive. The most powerful thing you can do when you want someone to listen is to slow down. We live in a culture that equates speed with intelligence and certainty, so we talk fast to seem like we know what we're doing. But what actually happens is the opposite. When you talk too fast, people subconsciously sense anxiety. They sense a lack of control. They feel like you need them to approve of you. And when people feel that, they pull back. When you slow down, intentionally, deliberately, strategically, something shifts. You create gravity. You create the sense that what you're saying matters enough for you to let it land. Pauses become tools. Silence becomes power. And suddenly you're not chasing the listener's attention. They're chasing yours. Practice this. In your very next conversation, find one moment where you would normally rush to the next word. And stop. Breathe. Let the silence exist for just 1 or 2 seconds. Notice what happens in the other person's face. That's the moment of impact. That's the moment clarity becomes presence. Now let's talk about something most people never consider when it comes to communication. And it's actually the biggest driver of whether people trust what you say. It's not what you say, it's the emotional state you're in when you say it. Here's what the science shows us, and what the most respected voices in human psychology have confirmed across decades of research. People read your internal state before they process your actual words. Before they hear your logic, before they absorb your message, they have already scanned you. They've picked up on microsignals, tension in your face, hesitation in your posture, urgency that feels like desperation, confidence that feels like calm knowing. They've already decided whether to trust you, and that decision happens before you finish your first sentence. This means that changing how you speak starts before you speak. It starts with how you prepare your internal state. The most impactful communicators in the world, the ones who walk into rooms and immediately shift the energy, they have rituals before high-stakes conversations. They breathe differently. They stand differently. They mentally prime themselves to feel grounded, centered, and certain. Not arrogant, certain. Because certainty is contagious, and doubt is even more contagious. Let's go here next because this is the part that most people find hard to hear. And the people who hear it and actually apply it are the ones who change fastest. Most of us have been unknowingly trained to speak in ways that create distance. We over-explain. We apologize for our opinions before we even state them. We hedge. We say things like, I might be wrong, but, or, this is probably a stupid question, or, I don't know if this makes sense. And every single one of those phrases is a signal to the other person that even you don't believe what you're about to say. Stop editing yourself before you speak. Stop shrinking your ideas before you give them space to land. This isn't about being arrogant. It's about giving your thoughts the dignity they deserve. If you believe in what you're saying, say it like you believe in it. If you're not sure, don't pre-apologize. Just say it and let the conversation clarify it. There's a massive difference between intellectual humility and communicative self-destruction. One builds trust, the other destroys it. Now here's where everything starts coming together. And this is the part of the conversation that usually shifts things for people. When you combine clear intention with vivid language, with deliberate pacing, with grounded emotional presence, and with the confidence to say your truth without dimming it first, something remarkable happens. People stop treating your words as noise and start treating them as signal. You know what signal feels like. You've felt it. You've been in a conversation where every word the other person said felt like it mattered, like they were speaking directly to something inside you, like they saw you clearly. That's not a personality thing. That's a skill thing. And skills are learnable. Think about what that actually means for your life, not just in professional situations, though the career implications alone are extraordinary. We're talking about how often you get your ideas adopted, how quickly people champion your work, whether opportunities seem to come to you or whether you're always fighting for them. But beyond career, think about your relationships. Think about the conversations that never quite went where you needed them to go, the people who always seem to misunderstand you no matter how carefully you chose your words. Think about what it would mean to finally feel heard, not just occasionally, but consistently. To have someone look at you and say, that's exactly it, you just said exactly what I was feeling but couldn't articulate. That's connection. And connection built on clarity is one of the most valuable things a human being can experience. The people who have done the deepest work in this area describe it the same way. They say it feels like a superpower, not because they suddenly became a different person, but because the best version of who they already were finally had a clear channel to move through. This is where you're headed if you do this work. And the work is real. It takes intention. It takes practice. It takes someone showing you the specific frameworks and holding you to a standard that you probably won't hold yourself to on your own. Which is why what's linked below in the video description exists. This isn't for everyone watching this. If you're satisfied with how people currently respond to you, this isn't your moment. But if there's a part of you that has known for a while that you are meant to be listened to, meant to lead, meant to influence in a way that actually reflects who you are inside, then waiting is genuinely costing you every week you're not operating at this level. Is a week your ideas are being underestimated, your relationships are staying shallower than they need to be, and your potential is sitting just slightly out of reach. The link is there. The decision is yours. And honestly, the people who act on things like this immediately are already different from the people who say they'll do it later. You already know which one you are.